Hello.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Sorry for joining little late.
Okay, sir. No issue.
Yes.
So, good afternoon, all the participants. Welcome to the second session of this STTP on day 5. So, today's resource person is now available with us. So, yesterday evening session with the same sir, that is Dr. Dinesh Kulkarni sir from Walchand College of Engineering, Sangli. So, without wasting much time, I request Kulkarni sir to take over the session.
Yes. Thank you very much. Let me just check whether I can share the slides properly.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Just give me a couple of minutes.
Yes.
Yes. So is it visible?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Yeah. So we are talking about welcome on. We are talking about clustering algorithms, and in yesterday's session we have seen the most popular clustering algorithm, that is KNN. And today we are talking about another algorithm, which is again much more popular. But these two algorithms, the other algorithm we are talking about today is K-means algorithm. But these two algorithms are completely in different domains, as we have seen yesterday. One is in the cluster in the group of supervised algorithm, and other is unsupervised algorithm. So the one which you're talking about is example of unsupervised algorithm. As I mentioned, unsupervised algorithm, there is no any label connected to the samples. So probably the algorithm must be intelligent enough, or based on the some statistical parameters of the samples, it categorizes that algorithm into one of the classes. So this particular difference is very important. So let me directly jump to. So I hope that there are no any questions in the previous session. And yeah, so let us look at this algorithm, K-means algorithm. As the name indicates, it is the taking mean of k different clusters. So very important property of this is the cluster formation is based on the distance. So depending on the distance between the samples, distance between the input elements, we form the clusters. And how do we compute the distance? Distances are computed as we have seen some of the distance formulas earlier. So those formulas could be used, and decision about which formula is to be used, which decision matrix is to be used. It depends on which application you are trying to solve and what kind of characteristics you want to have in your application. It contains clusters, and each clusters has its own centroid. So we form clusters, different clusters out of the given data. We say that these data or some part of the data is it belongs to one particular cluster. And as far as one particular cluster is concerned, again we have some properties associated with that cluster. One of the important property is how much cohesive the samples are in that particular cluster. So that cohesiveness or similarity measure depends on how close they are. So as we increase the size of the cluster in two-dimensional geometry, probably this cluster will become scattered, and probably as far as the quality of that cluster is concerned, the quality is measured in terms of how far these points or these elements are from the center of the cluster. So we normally assume that the cluster are of ideal size and shape, that is circle. So maybe we take center of the circle as the cluster center, and then we compute the distance of every element from this center, and maybe summation of the distance will give you the information about the quality. If this summation is smaller, then your cluster is proper. If this sum is more, uh, having higher value, then probably your cluster formation is not proper. So the quality is based on sum of the square of the differences. So it is also called as SSE, sum square error. So it is sum square of the difference, difference between the centroid and the data points, as I said, within the cluster. So for every cluster, we compute the sum square error or sum square distances, and these distances, the sum of these distances is used as one of the quality parameters. The k-means problem is to find cluster centers that minimizes this intra-class variance. Intra-class variance is the difference between these clusters, and that is the sum square distances from each data point being clustered to its cluster center. Let us look at the examples. This is the example where you'll find that there are some two persons with almost similar kind of clothes, then two wrestlers, and maybe four short persons. So maybe you'll be happy to put them into one cluster. These two people. You'll be happy to put these two wrestlers in one cluster and these four short people into one cluster. So this is based on probably the parameters like height and width. The height of these two people is higher. The height for these four people is very small, whereas the height and width for these two people, wrestlers is average, is more than, I mean, it is average compared to these two. So probably we want to put them into different clusters. So here we have defined that, we have said that we want to categorize these 8 persons into 3 different groups. Now this is okay as far as the human beings are concerned or some visual figures are concerned. The same thing applies for the points also. So suppose that we have given a points in 2-dimensional geometry. So before k-means, applying k-means algorithm, the entire structure looks like this. You have these points as a given points, and when you apply k-means, what we want to do is possibly we want to divide these points into 3 different clusters. And so we said that because these points are very close to each other, so maybe we can put them into one group. We have put them into one group, circled group, and we have changed the color of them so that clearly indicates that they belongs to one group. Similarly, these points are very close to each other compared to these points, so probably we can put them into another group, and these remaining points can be put into another. So you can see visually it is very clear that we have identified the group, and then we have put these different points into these groups. Now, why we are basically grouping them is maybe we want to compare these with, or we want to set out the parameters for the groups. So this groups belongs to, or maybe based on the parameters, what we want to say is this group belongs to the wrestlers group, this group belongs to maybe the short people, this group, if it is somewhere here, then it belongs to the heighted people. So something of that sort. As far as visualization or animation is concerned, I think you can just refer to the Wikipedia page. On the Wikipedia page, GIF image is there. So if you just see that animated GIF, you will find that every iteration, this belongingness of different points changes, and it gets properly adapted at the end. So the convergence takes place at the end. Initially, what happens is you have put them into random categories or random clusters, but slowly and steadily they try to align themselves in the proper group. So that is what is shown. I don't think I should show it. You can see it on your own. The basic objective function of k-means, as stated earlier, is to minimize this G, which is the objective function. which is equal to, for j is equal to 1 to k and for I is equal to 1 to n, we are trying to reduce the distances, of the points, that is Cj are the points, sorry, Cj is the cluster center and Xij is the point. So difference between them, square, some square, okay, some square error between them are being minimized. Okay, so we have this Xi as a point, Cj is a cluster center, and we have total n points and k number of clusters. So we want to divide them into k clusters and group them into these k different groups. What could be the complexity of this? Now, this complexity is one of the important parameter which probably is applied in case of every algorithm. So, algorithms complexity, of course, the logic is also very important, and how we decide the complexity is based on the logic. So, what logic you follow to solve that problem will decide the complexity. So, this is almost NP hard problem. It has got a tremendous number of computations to be carried out. If we say that k and d are the dimensions and k is the number of clusters, then probably it is of the order of n to the power dk plus 1, n to the power dk plus 1. So this is very complex, and probably if your number of points are more, then you won't be able to get the results quickly on simple machines like desktop or laptop. Maybe you need to use some high-powered machines, high-speed machines for getting the results. You might have seen that, or you might have heard that research community actually runs these kinds of programs, and their programs runs in terms of days or weeks, if not months. So they take a lot of time because they have huge amount of data which needs to be classified into different groups. And it is not just the data, it is the dimensionality of the data also. For example, if you take a 2D point, the dimensionality of that is two-dimensional. That is, we just specify x and y parameters. But for the samples like weather forecasting, the dimensionality will be much more. As I said, the wind velocity, the temperature, the for every point I'm saying, the temperature, then the humidity, a lot of parameters could be there. So computing the distance for these points, or I mean the distance between this point and maybe the centroid, it takes huge amount of time. So that's why it becomes more and more complex. Let us look at the properties of the good clustering algorithm. What we expect from a good clustering algorithm. What we expect is all the data points in the cluster should be similar. So they must have the similar properties. So in other words, we want them, if you are visualizing them with the help of some visualization tool, then you should see them very close to each other. So that is what is expected. Second is the data points from different clusters should be as different as possible. So because they are different and because they belongs to different clusters, their properties must be completely different. We should have a well spread proportion of data points amongst the clusters. So as far as your data set is concerned, we expect that the distribution of these points amongst the cluster must be very proper. It should not happen that you have one cluster in which you have only 1 point and the rest of the clusters have huge amount of huge sample points within them. That should not happen. That is not a correct way of clustering the algorithm. Or maybe there is some problem with your data set. As far as the k-means algorithm implementation is concerned, now as indicated, what can be done is you can start with some groups, and then you can start looking at or computing the cluster centers. So suppose that you have some 10 points or 15 points. You have categorized initially randomly into say 3 groups, and then you said that these 5 points will belong to this particular cluster or group. The other 5 belongs to one particular cluster, and the other remaining 5 belongs to the third cluster. Now, once we identified their clusters, I mean the clusters of these points, what we can do is we can compute the cluster center. Now, cluster centers for n-dimensional data can be found out just by averaging or taking the sum square errors that is the computing the distance of these points. And so for every point, you compute the distance of that point with every other cluster center. Okay, because you have 3 clusters, compute the distance between that point and every cluster. And the point which is closer to a particular cluster, we say that that point belongs to that cluster. Of course, we'll be looking at that example later on. I'll show you how it is actually done. But this is how it does. I mean, once it is done, once the points are made to or belong to one particular cluster, at the end, what we do is we check what are the points which belongs to a particular cluster. Again, we take the average of all these points, I mean, average of the properties, attributes of the points. And we see that now this is a new cluster center. Okay, we do it for every cluster. Once we do it, we have now new cluster formation carried out. Now what we do, again, we repeat the process. We, for every point, we compare or we calculate the distance of that cluster, that point with the other remaining cluster centers. And again, we check to which cluster center it is closer. So this way your points probably are moving from one cluster to the other cluster during these iterations. So ultimately this happens many times. And then at the end, probably you get a settlement saying that now there is no any movement of a point from one cluster to other center, other cluster. So there you stop iterating and you say that now this is what the classification is. Okay, this is how it actually gets implemented. Of course, we'll be looking at it at the end. I'll show you how it is done. There could be some confusions in these k-means algorithm. That is, if you look at the points and if you try to visualize these points, suppose this is the scenario, the first scenario. I lost my pointer. Yeah, if this is the way the points look like, then probably you'll get confused whether we should consider this as one cluster or 2 clusters. So there could be a confusion. Similarly, for this, again, it is possible that you may get confused whether this should be taken as a single cluster or 2 clusters. Of course, better in this case, it is better that if you take 2 clusters, then these two becomes completely separable. Whereas in this case, it is very difficult. So you need to take a call. Of course, it is not. I'm not saying that you cannot take 2 clusters, but if you take 2 clusters, then probably the belongingness of some of the points, if they are equidistant, will be questionable. Again, look at this particular thing. There could be confusion in terms of how to form the clusters. Now, this we can form a cluster for these points, but what about these points? Can we form a single cluster out of these points? Now, that is a very difficult kind of example itself. When formation of clusters in this way will be could be very difficult, and as far as your k-means is concerned, this will become a challenging task. Now, what is important in this k-means algorithm is to decide the number of clusters. Number of clusters, decision about number of clusters is very difficult. Prior to execution of the algorithm, one can say that I want to form, say, 5 clusters or 10 clusters out of the given data. That is possible. You can start with some random cluster centers, and then iteratively you will come to the end with the complete convergence, saying that some of the points will belong to specific cluster. But this is possible if you have decided that you want to have those many clusters, say k number of clusters. But the question is, if I don't know, if I have a data of say 10,100 points or 10,000 points, and I don't know, I don't have any idea of how many clusters I should have. Taking a decision of that sort is very difficult. So maybe what you can do is you can start with some random point. If you say that I want to have clusters somewhere between say 5 to 10. So do it for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then see what the distribution is. And based on the visualization principle, you can decide what is the correct value of k, and that can be accepted. There are some standard methods for deciding the value of k. The first method is visual method. It is also called as elbow creation method. So elbow creation is it is depending on the value of error we get while we form these clusters. So as you know that as we go on increasing the clusters, so if you have 10,000 points, and if you say that I just want single cluster, then that sum square error will be huge, because if you compute this cluster center, if you compute the distances of the rest of the points from this cluster center, sum square error in terms of sum square error, then that will be a very huge figure. So there the error will be more. So what we will do is, if we form two clusters now, the error will get reduced, because now you have two cluster centers and the distances will get reduced. Okay, because you have two different clusters. If you make it four, then probably it will go down again. So ideally, maybe we can go to the extreme end, saying that if you have 10,000 points, you can have 10,000 clusters. But that will unnecessarily increase the number of clusters, and handling the data will be again difficult, because we haven't classified in cluster or grouped them into clusters. So again, that's the extreme case. So the best way is to look for how we are improving upon our error as we decrease the number of classes. Okay, as we decrease the number of classes, or as we increase the number of classes, how we improve upon the error. And at some point of time, based on that graph of error versus number of clusters, we decide where to stop. What is the best possible value of number of clusters? So this method is basically the elbow creation method. Elbow creation is plotting a graph of number of clusters versus the error. Second method is mathematical method. It's called as Hill-Houghton coefficient. Then looking at the actual results for different values of k, we can look at the results and then decide. So it is based on experimentation and interpretation. Okay. So in the first method, that is elbow creation, we plot the number of clusters again within the clusters and some of these square errors. So it is SSE, which is taken into account. So the sum of square distance from every data point to their cluster center is calculated, and then it is plotted. And once you plot it, you try to identify the elbow. Elbow is like curve. So try to identify that elbow point, and whatever value you get for that elbow point, value of number of clusters, is to be taken as the value of k. Okay. So this is how the graph probably will look like. Plot the number of clusters. So on x-axis, you will see that these are the number of clusters, and on y-axis, you will see that it is SSE, that is sum square error. So as you increase the number of clusters, the sum square error decreases. So at some point of time, maybe perfect region is somewhere here, where the values of k is 3, 4, 5. So either you can select 3, 4, or 5. 4 probably will be the ideal candidate, because here you get moderate value of SSE for smaller value, moderate value of number of cluster k. So 4 is the appropriate value. So what we're doing here again is probably we are to draw this graph, we need to divide the number of points into different clusters, variable number of clusters, and that probably will take huge amount of time. And so this is basically a kind of manual method. So maybe we need to go for some sophisticated methods with which we can improve upon the time. So how many clusters is basically $1 million question. How to decide? Unless and until you carry out some computation and you spend some time, you will not get the answer to this question. So what you can do is you need to partition n elements into predetermined number of clusters. That's the best way. Finding the right number of clusters is a part of the problem. Given elements and partitions to appropriate number of subsets can usually take algorithms for one flavor and convert it. Like there's a lot of research which is carried out onto deciding what is the proper way in which you can decide the value of k. Okay. So normally the k is not specified in advance. If k is specified, everything is simple. What you need to do is you need to just compute the values and decide. Okay. But if it is not specified in advance, then probably you need to use some optimization algorithm for deciding the value of k. So another method is probably we can assign some say it is incentive and punishment kind of method. So for every value of cluster, value of K, we decide what is the punishment to be given and what is the incentivization to be provided. So given clustering, define the benefit for the item to be similar to its centroid and define the total benefit. So we can compute some benefit kind of parameter, and the one which is having highest benefit, highest total benefit could probably define what the value of K should be. So what we do for this is we penalize for lots of cluster. We, as I said, ideally it is not expected that you should have many more clusters, because as you increase the number of clusters, you are increasing the number of classes. So if your number of classes are more, then probably your group decision is not proper. So we assign some cost to every cluster. Okay, so thus for clustering with K clusters, the total cost incurred is KC, K into C. That is, K is number of clusters and C is the cost for every cluster. We define the value of clustering to be the total benefit minus the total cost. So what is the total benefit we get out of the cluster, and what is the total cost incurred in terms of how many clusters we have? Okay, so K into C will give you the cost, and the total benefit, we subtract total cost from total benefit, and then we see what is the value. And based on that value, we decide which is the best K value. So finding the cluster of highest value for overall choices of K can be carried out. Total benefit increases as with increasing K, but can stop when it doesn't increase by much value. And the cost term enforces this. Okay, so as far as the benefit is concerned, you can decide the benefit, and this benefit can be decided by how close they are, how close the points are, because you know that if you increase the number of clusters, then the closeness will increase. Closeness probably will be void, and as you increase the number of clusters, the points will be more closer to the cluster centers. But as you decrease it, it will be far away. So this way it will give what is the benefit. And reversely, if you increase the number of clusters, the penalty will increase. So the total cost of that will increase. So the penalty is in terms of providing, if you increase the number of clusters, the penalty will be more. If you decrease the number of clusters, the closeness will be more. Closeness will be less. Another important thing is the choice of the seeds. That is, you start with some random clustering, and maybe you, while taking it, you consider some of the points. So given say 10 points, you first of all take some 3 random points out of it. And if you want to create 3 clusters, so with these 3 random points, you start and you compare the distances. And the quality of this clustering depends on which 3 points you select as a random point. So this selection must also be very proper. Okay. So the results can vary based on the random seed selection. How much randomly you have selected and what is the appropriateness of these random seed selection. So that will decide how best your results are. And let me tell you, if you have a huge number of points, then probably the answers could be different if this different random samples are used. This is very interesting. So it is not that both the algorithms will give the same result where the random seeds are selected. Okay, so these may result in altogether different clusters. I mean, altogether different means there could be some little variation about the belongingness of some of the points. So if you have 10,000 points in all, maybe 1 or 2 points in one configuration may belong to one cluster, and the other configuration they belong to some other cluster. So some seeds can result in poor conversion rate. Now conversion rate is also very important. Conversion rate is how fast it gets conversion, how fast the items belong to the corresponding clusters. Okay, so this conversion rate also depends on the random seed selection. and they ultimately result in suboptimal clustering. Optimal clustering is where your distance is very perfect, and suboptimal is probably there is some compromise on the distances. So look at this example. Example shows the sensitivity to the seeds. For example, if you start with B and E, okay, if you start with B and E, then what will happen is uh, if you start with these as centroids, then probably you will get a convergence. It will get converged to ABC. So these ABC will come into one cluster and DEF will go into another cluster. Okay, but if you start with D and F, there is D, it is here, D and F, then what will happen is because you're taking this as cluster center. So probably these 4 points will belong to one cluster and these 2 will belong to another cluster. So ABCD will be into one cluster, one group, and these 2 will be another. So that is difficult because so with 2 different initial points or random points, you are getting converged to 2 different cluster configurations completely. Okay, so it's very difficult. I mean, it is very difficult to control from where to start. Okay, and as I said, it also depends. Sorry, it also depends. It also decides the convergence time. So this conversion time is very important. Conversion time is probably the execution time of the algorithm. How fast they go to appropriate clusters. Okay, so this conversion time and the clustering, quality of the clustering will hamper with the selection of your random seeds. Okay. So there are a lot of research which is carried out on to what is the best way of selecting the random seeds. Okay. Where do we start? How to decide those random points? So you will come across the term or the phrase like k-means plus plus. So k-means plus plus is another altogether different algorithm which helps you in deciding what is the best choice of the random seeds to start with. So it starts with those random seeds and then it gets converged to wherever it goes. Okay. So it's very important to note that we have standard algorithms developed for deciding the random seeds also. Again, if you take a close look of time complexity, then it is the computational distance between 2 elements is big of D, where D is the dimensionality of the vector element. Reassigning the vector, second step is reassigning the vector, clusters. So if you have k number of clusters, you actually compute kn number of distances and combining it with the dimensions, probably the total number of computations are k into n into d, where k is the number of clusters, n is the number of points, and d is the dimensionality of every point or the attributes, number of attributes of every point. Then once that assignment of points to the cluster is done, we actually compute the centroids. So centroids will help you in identifying the centers of the each item, each item. So that adding the distance between this point, the sample point, and the cluster center. So to whatever cluster center it is closer, we say that we set that point to that cluster. Okay. Once we assign them to the different centroids, now we go to the next iteration. In next iteration, again, depending on the change of the ownership of these points, we compute the cluster center. Okay, we compute the cluster center, and again, this gets repeated. So if it is getting repeated for I number of times, then the total number of computations will be I into k into n into t, where I is the number of iterations, k is the number of clusters, n is the number of points, and d is the number of dimensions, or the dimension, the attribute, number of attributes of every point. So this is how the algorithm will look like. Basically, there are 2 types of algorithms. One is called as flat algorithm, and another is called as hierarchical algorithm, as we have seen in case of KNNs. Flat algorithms are algorithms wherein we start with random or partial partitioning. Okay, and in every iteration we refine it. We do it in using k-means clustering, or we may use some other technique like model-based clustering. Okay, so in every iteration we revise it, we refine the outcome. That is called as flat algorithm. And second is hierarchical algorithm, in which we start either from maximum number of clusters and then go to whatever level you want, or you start with all in one clusters and then go on subdividing it into different clusters. Again, there are two types of clusters. One is hard cluster and soft cluster. In hard cluster, what you do is probably the points in hard cluster, the point belongs to only one cluster, whereas in soft clustering, a point may belong to more than one cluster simultaneously. So that will have multiple belongingness. Okay, so there are two clusters to which a point may belong, two or more. Okay. So soft clustering, here we make that point belong to multiple clusters. Then we'll have a look at the applications of these algorithms, different algorithms, k-means algorithms. One example is image segmentation, in which we break the image into meaningful segments. If you look at the image, which is shown here, there are some clouds. These clouds comes in, or they get categorized into one particular segment, one particular cluster. Then the water in the lake probably is getting clustered, is getting grouped into one particular cluster. Then probably a space between this the hill and the lake, it gets into one particular cluster, and so on and so forth. So probably this type and this type is same. So as I said, it depends on what kind of cluster, what kind of pixel you're talking about, and to which other 4 pixels, neighboring pixel, it is connected, and based on that we carry out the classification, and this is how the classification will happen, and this is how it will look like. So we can call this as outcome of image segmentation. There are some other related applications. Customer segmentation can also be carried out. I mean, we can use k-means algorithm in customer segmentation. Customer segmentation is probably what kind of as far as the malls are concerned, what is depending on the purchasing capabilities or purchasing habits of the customer, we identify these customers into different categories. So some of the customers will be heavily buying the items from the kitchen segment from a particular mall. Some of them might be purchasing the items related to say hosiery kind of thing. So we can cluster the customers based on their purchasing habits. So that can be one of the applications of k-means algorithm. Then document clustering. Document clustering is you have been given, say, thousands of documents and you want to put them into different categories. For that, you need to cluster them, and again you need to compute the distances between the documents. So as we have seen, we can use the measure like cosine calculation, cosine similarity. So then vector quantization. Vector quantization also uses some theoretical logic used in k-means. So k-means can be part of vector quantization. Vector quantization is basically used for compression of the data normally. And once you compress it, then you can send it across the smaller bandwidth channels. Okay, so I think let us look at one example. Let me stop sharing this and share another document. Can you see this? Is it visible? Hello? Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible. No issue.
And visibility?
Yes, sir.
Can you see the LibreOffice calc sheet?
Yes, just maximize slightly.
Okay. Is it okay now?
Yeah, it is okay, sir.
Can you see the points, the data on the sheet?
Yes.
It's visible now. And I think you can see the graph also.
Yes,
It's
sir.
basically XY graph. Yeah. So let me tell you what it is. I have just created this simple example. On the sheet, you'll see the points. So I have been given some 10 points from P1 to P10. And these are the X and Y coordinates of these points, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. You will see the actual graph of these points. So this is what the XY graph of these point is. So we have the data points here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Suppose that we want to form the clusters out of it, and we've decided that we'll form a three clusters out of it. So it's obvious that it should form the clusters in this way, right? These 3 points should come in one cluster, these 3 points should go in another cluster, and these 4 remaining points should go in some other cluster. Okay, so let us see how it actually happens, what your algorithm does in making these points belonging to a particular cluster. So remember that we have decided that we'll go for 3 clusters, formation of 3 clusters out of these points. Okay, so what we have done is we have again just copied the same points, the x and y coordinates of these points, and then we decided that let us select 3 random points. So we have decided that these are the 3 points, that is point number 3 P3 with the coordinates 3 and 4 as one cluster center, point number 5, that is P5, that is with the coordinate 6, 2 as the second cluster center, and point number 3 is P6, that is with the coordinate 5, 3. Okay, so we have these 3 cluster centers which are randomly selected cluster centers. So we are starting with this. Okay, so probably for this again we are using random numbers generated in the range of 1 to 10, and we are generating 3 random numbers, and if they happen to be 3, 5, and 6, we are selecting these points as the cluster centers randomly. Once we decide upon the cluster centers, now we compute the distance of every point with these points. Okay, so this is the distance of every cluster center. Okay, so we take one point, we calculate its distance with this cluster center, second cluster center, and third cluster center. So we use a standard Euclidean distance formula, x1 square minus x2 square plus y1 square minus y2 square root of that. So that is how we compute the distance. So this distance 1 is distance of this point from cluster center 1, distance of the same point with cluster center 2, and distance of the same point with cluster center 3. So this is what we get, and then we take the minimum between these 3. So the minimum is this distance. Okay, now because this distance is minimum, we say that this point should belong to the cluster formed by the first cluster center. Okay, first cluster center. So we say that this belongs to the cluster center 1, cluster center number 1, or cluster number 1, you can say. Similarly, we do it for all other points. So again, for the second point, we just calculate the distance of this point P2 with the cluster center 1, 2, and 3. So these are the cluster centers. That is, these are the points in the first iteration. Okay, so we compare the distance of this second point P2 with distance between that point and this C1, C2, and C3. And again, we use a standard formula and put it here. So this is the distance of point number 2 from cluster center 1, the same from cluster center 2, and the same from cluster center 3. And the one which is minimum amongst this is this. So again, we say that this points belong to cluster number 1, or it is closer to cluster center number 1. We do it for all the points. Okay. So finally, we have decided that these points where we have written 1, they will be in cluster number 1. These points where we have written 2, these 2 points, they will be in cluster 2. And this point, the only point, will be in cluster number 3. Cluster number 3. Okay. So this is what the initial configuration is. So what has happened is first 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 will go in 1. Then I think these 2 will go in another. This will go in third. Something has gone wrong. Maybe these 3 points. Maybe these 3 points are also going. They are near to this. And it depends on which point you are taking as a cluster center. And because we have randomly selected them, I could not actually reflect that that behavior of to which point it is near. Okay, that I could not do it. Okay. Anyway, the theory is very clear that we need to identify the clusters to which they belong, depending on the distance, and the one which is very close, the one cluster center which is very close to it, probably will be the cluster to which they belong. Okay, so thus we have returned the cluster centers. Now we have a conclusion that these 3 points, first 3 points and last 3 points, they belong to one cluster, cluster number 1. These 2 points belong to cluster number 2, and this point belongs to cluster number 3. Now in the second iteration, this completes the first iteration. In the second iteration, what we do is like this. So in the second iteration, say the first iteration, what has happened? We said that these points belongs to one cluster. Now we compute the cluster center of these. How do we compute the cluster center? Now we compute the cluster center based on the x and y coordinate. We take the average of all these points, average of x coordinate of these 3 and these 3 points, and we put it here. Okay, so that is what we have done. So these averages are 3 and 5.5. 5.5. Now the second cluster has got 2 points. Okay, 2 points. So we just take average of these 2. So that is 5 plus 6, that is 5.5, average of that. And 1 plus 2 is 3, divided by 2 is 1.5. And as far as third cluster is concerned, we have only 1 point, that is 0.6. So it has got the coordinates 5 and 3. So this will remain same because it has only 1 point. Once we do this, now again the next step is to compute the distances of these points from P1 to P10 from these cluster centers. So P1 has a distance of 2.69 something from this cluster number 1. Similarly, it has this P1 is this much distance away from the second cluster center, and P1 is this much distance away from the third point. So we have computed the distances of these points with the 3 different cluster centers, and we are taking now the one which is to which it is closest, that is cluster number 1. Okay, so we say that this is closest, so it is probably cluster number 1 to which it belongs. Similarly, in this case, this value is smallest, so this point belongs to cluster number 3. In this case, this value is smaller, 1.5. Sorry, this is 1.5. Okay, I've just written the minimum distance here to make it more clear. Okay, but to which it belongs is cluster number 1 here. Okay. Similarly, all other belongingness I have written. So what is the conclusion? Conclusion is now they have changed their ownership of clusters. Now point number 1 belongs to cluster number 1. Point number 2 belongs to cluster number 3. Point number 3 belongs to cluster number 1, and so on. So it has changed the the belongingness. So now how many points I have in one cluster? I have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 points in cluster number 1, then 2 points in cluster number 2, and 3 points in cluster number 3. Okay. So now in the next iteration, what I will do, again, I'll take the average of these points now. 1, 1, 1, 1. These, sorry, 1, 1. 5 points, average of the x and y coordinates of these 5 points will be taken and will be considered as the cluster center for cluster 1. Okay, it's a cluster center number 1. X and y coordinates. I'll take the average of the corresponding points. Similarly, for cluster number 2, I'll take the average of these 2 points. And this process will continue. Now you'll say how many times it is to be done. Now there could be some condition. There should be some criteria which probably we can adhere to and decide to exit these iterations or say that the conversion is complete, conversion is over. Okay. So this convergence is very, very important, and we ensure that the conversion is completed. Okay. So convergence is decided by lot many parameters. What could be one parameter? One parameter is we may estimate what is the error, total error created out of because of these clustering. How that can be calculated? So that is calculated here. So what I do is I take the sum squared errors. What are the sum squared errors? It is basically the square distances between the center of the cluster and rest of the point in that cluster. So I take the square of the distances of every point in that cluster with its center, cluster center. I just sum them up together, and that is what my sum square error is. Sum square error. So for cluster number 1, my sum square error is 31.5. For some cluster number 2, because it has got more point, it has got 5 points. For cluster number 2, which is having 2 points, the error is only 1. Okay, sum square error is 1. And for the third one, it is, I think it is computed for the earlier one because we had only 1 point there. Okay, we had only 1 point there. So this is how we have computed the errors. And then we may take a decision whether to proceed for next iteration depending on whatever sum square error, some of the sum square error we get here. So we can take some threshold value and we can say that if the sum square error is less than this, we need not proceed. If it is greater than some threshold value, we can continue with creation or fine tuning the clusters. Okay. The total sum square error probably will not be a right figure. So in that case, you can look for per sample kind of sum square error. So I just divide this by number of points. So because I have 10 points here, so per sample, this error is 3.25. So I can decide that if per sample, per point, if the sum square error is greater than this particular threshold, I'll continue with the iteration, next iteration. And if it is less than something, then I'll stop. I'll stop saying that I have formed the clusters. Now, whatever cluster centers the points belongs to, they will belong to those cluster centers. So this could be one criteria which could be used, and normally this criteria is being used. Another criteria which can be used is we can check in the two successive iterations. In the two successive iteration, if the belongingness of these points to the cluster doesn't change. So whatever cluster centers they were belonging to in the previous iteration, if the same belongingness continues in the same next iteration, then we say that there is, though we have done some processing, there is no change in the belongingness. So we can say that now it has settled. Now it has converged. So we can stop iterating. So that can be another criteria. Okay. So second, again, this is a very important criteria. Second important criteria is once we are sure that there is no any change of points to the clusters, change of belongingness of these points to the clusters in the successive iteration. So the previous iteration it was same, in this in the next iteration it is still same, then we can say that we can stop and we can say that it has converged. Okay. Now there could be one problem associated with this. It is possible that if some of the points are equidistant from two cluster centers, then because of the instability of the algorithm, in one iteration it may belong to one cluster. In the next successive iteration, it may belong, a particular point will belong to the other. So it is actually getting jumping from one cluster to the other cluster in the successive iterations. Then because of the condition which are set, that in the successive iteration, if the belongingness remains same, then you are stopping. So it will never terminate. This algorithm will never terminate. So in this case, you may go for looking at the sum square error criteria. So if it is continuously changing, and if you found that after even 1000 iteration, it is not getting converged, then you may look for that SSC criteria. And based on the SSC threshold, you can decide where to stop or not. Okay. So this is how it continues. And then after some iteration, you will find that they will belong to a particular category. Now, as I said, it all depends how much time it will take, how many iterations it will require for converge. This all depends on what is the seed which you have selected. Okay. So here we have selected random seed. We have selected points 3, 5, and 6 as the random seeds. You may select some other point, and this may lead to altogether different groupings. Of course, it will not be the case for these this case in which we have only 10 points. But if you have 10,000 points, then maybe the belongingness will completely change. Okay. So it depends on what seed points you're taking, and the convergence time also depends on how many clusters you are forming. That is the value of T. So it depends on these parameters. And if you want to make it converge very fast, then maybe you need to research on what points should be taken as random points. And as I said, k-means plus plus is another algorithm which actually helps you in deciding these parameters or these random points. Okay. All right. So let me stop sharing and go to the presentation. All right. Yeah. So next is the topics which are related but not convert. It is genetic k-means algorithm, and so we use some genetic techniques for or in combination with the k-means algorithm. So of course, because of the time constraint, we are not going in details of that. Conclusion is there are many algorithms which exist which actually helps you in clustering the points. Transforming this is useful for your needs, and the complexity creations are very important. Optimizations are important in terms of the convergence. Optimization is important in terms of deciding, or the convergence is depending on what parameters you are setting. Like for what is the SSC value, what is the value of k, all these things are very important for the k-means algorithm. So I think that's all about this k-means algorithm. I think I have covered it very fast, but still some of the important crux of the algorithm I have covered, and I tried to put it in simple words and simple language and with the simple example. So I have seen many resources available on internet which actually gives you direct programs for implementing these k-means, but probably you will not understand those programs because they are using some ready-made functions. So I was looking at the k-means algorithm on using Py, because Python, you have a lot of libraries available, so they do a lot of work for you. So just use one function, one command, you will get all the things getting implemented. But there the problem is your own understanding will be limited. So you need to know how it actually works. So this probably has an attempt to make it more student friendly or for audience friendly to understand what that algorithm is. And then once the algorithm is known, then maybe you can use different versions of it. You can create versions, and depending on the application, you can decide how to put them into different clusters, what criteria is to be used, and lot many other things can be decided. So these are some of the important things. As I said, this Silhouette coefficient, that method is more efficient method. It's a mathematical method. It has got some statistical base, and with that you can decide the value of k. So the some of the important aspects of this is deciding the value of k. Of course, the logic is important, deciding the value of k, and your termination criteria, where you are going to terminate it. So these things are very important. The rest of the things are that way very simple and straightforward. So I hope that the algorithm is clear to you, and of course, if you are really interested to take it forward, maybe vector quantization and the other applications are very interesting, and they're based on all these k-means as a basic method. Okay. So let me stop here, and I'd like to hear from you about if you have any queries or questions.
Yes. Participant, if any questions, you can put in the chat box or you can unmute yourself.
Being last session, I think the participants are also exhausted.
No, sir. No.
So as far as implementation is concerned, I think maybe someone can take it up and try implementing it using Python or any other programming language. There's some standard tools are available like scikit and all those things. So you can try it using that. And a lot of programs are available online, so you can practice it using that.
Yes. Sir, one question in chat box, sir.
Yes,
Can we
yes.
see?
Let me just stop sharing this. Let me go to the chat box. In k-means centroid are selected randomly. Because of that, each time for the same value of k, I'm getting different results. Yes, any solution for this? The solution is, as I said, you need to look at that k-means plus plus, which will decide the random selection, which will highlight on selection of the random points. Or every time ensure that the same points are getting selected. Same random numbers are getting generated. Okay, that's the solution. But for a different initial conditions, different random numbers or different seed points, you may get different results altogether. That is very sure. Okay, so it's very interesting to see that the different randomized result yields or gets you altogether different performances of the clusters.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, sir. Again, one question briefly about DBScan.
No, I'm not getting. What is that DBScan? I lost it. Yes, can you just
Density based, I think.
sorry?
DBScan is nothing density based.
Density, do you mean to say that density of the points in the cluster? No, I don't have any idea. Sorry. Maybe I need to look at it and then study it and then maybe able to tell. Right now, I don't have any idea of DBScan. All right.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for the sessions from last day. Last session is also interesting, and this session is also you are taking that took the time out from your busy schedule and showered with your wisdom of knowledge. We are truly humbled by your presence, sir. Thank you once again. So briefly,
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
express on behalf of Sandeep Foundations, Sandeep Institute of Engineering and Management, Nashik. We take the opportunity to express our heartfelt thanks to you as for a resource person for this STTP on data analysis with Python, sir, sponsored by AICT. So thank you so much, sir, for your contribution and time and efforts to the success of this STTP, and hope the same cooperation in the near future as well, sir. Thank you,
Right.
sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience hearing, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So participants, I have posted the link of this session in the chat box. Please go through the chat box. And the next session will be at sharply 3 p.m. So only short session is there in the afternoon. And after that, we will conclude this STTP. Okay. So after conclusion, one short test as per the norm of AICT. And this is mandatory test for all. So please be present in the last session. So, so we can conclude the STTP in the last session. Okay. So thank you all. We'll meet again at 3 p.m. sharp.